When the heavens fall and the earth splits, we will be the shield that does not break. That quote, it really sets the tone, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's hard.
We're diving into the Crimson Bulwark today. You know, the real boots on the ground for those super secretive, unknown apostles.
Right, not the masterminds in the shadows, but the ones actually facing the horrors.
Exactly. They're the first line of defense against threats most people couldn't even imagine. And we've got some great sources really shedding light on their structure, their, frankly, unbelievable training.
Their beliefs, those core tenets.
Yeah, and some of the legendary battles that really defined who they are. So, yeah, we're going to explore the sheer grit and duty of these, well, forgotten knights, operating in the dark, protecting everything.
And hopefully get a handle on what makes them so crucial, so vital to this whole apostle organization.
Okay, so their main job, you said it, they're the shield.
They really are. It's practical. They're field operatives trained for tactical warfare, sure, but also survival in just bizarre environments. And basic arcane defense is key.
You see that in their gear too, right? It's not just standard issue.
Not at all. Relic-grade weapons. That points to a long, long history fighting, well, not normal stuff.
Rune armor.
Rune armor, minor enchantments. They need every edge they can get against, supernatural attacks. That description, shield wall between the known and the unknowable.
Yeah.
That's not just poetry. It's their job description. It shows exactly where they sit in the bigger picture of the apostles.
Shield wall. Okay, I like that. So how do you forge a wall like that? The training sounds intense. 4 years.
4 years, and it's relentless, covers everything.
Like standard tactical stuff, guns, blades, formations, you expect that.
Yeah.
But then, runic warfare. What even is that? Like enchanting things quickly?
Sort of, yeah. Inscribing runes, triggering minor enchantments under pressure. Then there's arcane defense wards, sigils, anti-possession techniques.
Anti-possession.
And the survival training is just out there. Warped biomes, non-Euclidean spaces.
I can't even picture non-Euclidean space. What does that feel like?
Exactly. Toxic ether fields. They're not just meant to survive this stuff. They have to contain occult threats while they're in it.
Using what? You mentioned relic chains.
Relic chains, null cages, hex binding, specialized gear for specific threats. And on top of all that, phrenic resilience. Basically, mental armor against psychic attacks.
Wow. So it's mind, body, maybe even soul.
It has to be. The threats they face are so varied. Being a great shot doesn't help if something's messing with your mind or rewriting reality around you.
Let's look at their standard kit then.
Yeah.
A tier 2 operative. What are they carrying?
Okay, so the runed carapace armor, it's described as light, mobile, which they need.
Right. Agility.
But it also protects against basic curses and, get this, gaze entities. Things that can harm you just by looking at you.
Gaze entities. Fun. Okay.
Then the weapon, a relic-grade blade or sidearm. Purified, maybe with divine bindings or elemental stuff. Weapons with history, maybe designed for specific enemies.
And these purification tags, what do?
Cleanse areas, track blood, disrupt glamours or illusions. Part practical, part mystical toolkit.
Like a field mirror. Made of obsidian.
Yeah, classic scrying tool, but for spotting doppelgangers, illusions, invisible things, standard ops for them.
Even their radio is special. A Thuric radio.
Designed to work through dimensional bleed or dream interference. Tells you the kind of places they end up.
And this emergency burn sigil, a one-shot deal.
Pretty much. A last resort, explosive rune to, collapse space or purify an area, but at a massive cost. It shows how high the stakes get.
Which brings us to their actual tactics, their doctrine.
And this is where that dedication really hits home.
It starts normally enough. Contain the anomaly, secure civilians, extract apostolic personnel. Makes sense.
Standard procedure, right. But then
it gets heavy.
Yeah.
If overrun, deny the breach.
Period. No retreat.
The focus is literally on dying, if necessary, to stop the threat spreading. Yeah. Buying time with blood. How do you instill that kind of finality?
Well, it speaks volumes about how serious they think these breaches are. Catastrophic potential. They are the first line, the strategically necessary sacrifice sometimes.
Expendable isn't quite the right word, but
No, not dismissively. It's a calculated necessity to prevent something worse. That doctrine, plus the training, the gear, it paints a picture of a force that's not just skilled, but utterly, almost terrifyingly committed.
Okay, so how do you move up in this organization? The hierarchy of grit. It's not about who you know, right?
Absolutely not. Pure merit. Proven in the field. You start as a squire, basically, an apprentice. Low-risk stuff, support roles under a mentor.
And getting promoted tonight.
That requires your blood baptism, first kill in a live breach. Grim, but yeah. And then the oath standing, a public vow.
And becoming a full bulwark knight, the core infantry.
That takes more. Completing 9 rites, these are critical missions, proving you're willing to sacrifice. And you need sponsorship from 2 senior knights.
It gets harder from there, I assume?
Oh, yeah. Knight errant. These are solo operators, black ops types. To get there, you have to volunteer for a widow-marked mission.
Which is?
Statistically fatal. And you have to succeed. Plus, survive something called the severance test, 7 days alone in an unstable breach zone, no supplies.
Yes, wow, okay. Knight Prime.
Elites. They protect high-value people, lead specialized teams on essential missions, requires a legacy action, some act of heroism or sacrifice that literally changes a campaign, plus recommendations from high up.
And the top field rank, Centurion.
Extremely rare. Field commanders, breach masters, leading multiple squads in the absolute worst zones, requires 20-plus campaigns.
20?
And get this, denying personal resurrection at least twice because the mission needed completing more than you needed saving.
Denying resurrection.
Yeah.
That's a whole other level of commitment.
It's a system built entirely on action, sacrifice, and immense personal cost. Merit over everything.
And these steps aren't just promotions. They're tied into these deep traditions and oaths. The initiation rite alone sounds like it completely remakes you.
It's designed to. First, the naming in the Red Hall. You lose your old identity, choose a war name. They carve it in blood on steel.
Intense.
Then, the gauntlet of echoes walking through your worst memories without breaking, testing that phrenic resilience right away.
And the 3 names ceremony.
Memorizing the name of a savior, a failure, and someone forgotten. A daily reminder, of what can happen. Success, failure, oblivion.
Followed by the blood binding.
Voluntarily bleeding into the ancient blood fire in this red hall. A literal binding.
And finally, the shield and the nail.
You're given a battered shield for your first fight, and an iron nail. You hammer that nail into the Red Hall wall, a promise of your eventual death and that you'll be remembered there. It's about forging this entirely new person, devoted only to the bulwark. It really strips away the old self, doesn't it? And creates this unbreakable bond with the order. The gauntlet shows how vital mental strength is. The 3 names keep them grounded, maybe. Yeah. And the blood, the shield, the nail. Pure ritual binding, sacrifice and protection, embodied.
Then there's the Rite of Oaths.
Yeah.
Done right in breach zones or at an altar called the Fallen Stone.
Yeah, reinforces the commitment right where it matters. It's a solemn back and forth between an officiant and the candidate. Life, death, duty, remembrance, all the key themes.
And they cut their palm, press it to a vow stone.
A very physical, very permanent symbol of dedication until death.
Okay, now this Crimson Crucible, an unspoken rite for centurions. That sounds ominous.
It sounds absolutely brutal. The requirements alone, 20-plus campaigns, surviving mortal wounds without resurrection, and you have to ask for it.
What does it involve?
First, the gathering of graves. Spending a night unarmed on an old battlefield, spirits testing you. Then, the marking of red soil, digging your own grave, lying in it, reciting oaths until the supervising centurion accepts.
Digging your own grave.
And finally, the trial of the last breath. Leading a shattered squad, holding a breach for 3 days. No backup, no healing. Survival is secondary. Holding the line is everything.
And if you survive that?
You're branded. Crimson sigil over the heart. You become a deathless oath bearer.
Deathless oath bearer. That's quite a title.
The Crucible seems like the absolute ultimate test. Pushing leaders past every conceivable limit, physical, mental, spiritual, confronting the fallen, accepting mortality, facing impossible odds. The branding isn't just a mark, it's a sign of transformation, facing death and coming back harder.
We also heard about a black oath of the widow marked, for those suicide missions, basically.
Seems like it. A final vow for those taking the path beyond the stone, as they call it. Missions you don't expect to return from.
And this term, Ashborn, connected to a centurion Cassian Dre.
Yeah, the sources mention him as maybe one of the first. Someone who crossed the Ashborn threshold, survived betrayal, death itself apparently, and came back. Colder, harder, changed.
So it's like post-traumatic transformation, almost, but on a Bulwark scale.
Possibly. It suggests something profound happens to those who endure the absolute worst, even by their standards. Surviving trauma, betrayal, death, and being forged into something even more formidable. The fact that Dre is singled out implies it's rare and significant.
And they have the history to back up this reputation. Legendary battles. Ashfall Keep.
Right, the Siege of Ashfall Keep. That's where the vow stone apparently comes from, and where Darius Volkner made his name, holding a collapsing arcane gate alone.
It's also key for Darius and Alara Wynn, right? She saved his life there.
Exactly, a pivotal moment for their bond, which seems central to the Bulwark's recent history.
Then the Battle of the Scarlet Veil.
Another big one, showcased their leadership again. Alara was injured, Darius supported her. It highlights their partnership under fire.
And the Emberfield Incident, 1997. That sounds bad.
Catastrophic. Involved temporal anomalies, which are always messy. Wiped out a whole Bulwark squad, except Darius and Alara.
Just the two of them survived.
Yeah. Led to this forbidden ritual, the funeral oath without bodies, because there were no remains. They marked their own armor with the names of the dead. Incredibly personal.
And didn't Alara do something reckless there to save Darius?
The sources suggest she went into the temporal stutter zone to pull him out, risking herself, maybe even costing her some memories. It shows the depth of their connection. These aren't just battle reports, they're defining moments. They shaped the people and the order.
They really illustrate the cost, don't they? The courage, the leadership, the sacrifice. Ashfall shows heroism and the start of that key partnership. Scarlet Veil shows their strength together. Emberfield. That's just raw loss and the crazy dangers they face and how they cope, how they remember.
Exactly. It's all part of the fabric of the Bulwark, what holds them together.
And we get some direct words from them, too. Quotes that really cut to the chase. Darius Volkner. We are not here to understand the dark. We're here to stop it. That's enough.
So pragmatic. Duty first, philosophy later, or never.
And another from him. If they must die, let it be for a world worth bleeding for. Not for pride, not for fear, not for my sins. That hints at a heavy burden.
A profound sense of responsibility, selflessness almost.
Then Alara Wynn, explaining why she turned down a promotion. The wall stands because the blade watches its back.
Brilliant. Shows her understanding of their roles, her commitment to being that blade on the front line.
And her tactical advice? Every fortress has a weakness. Be the blade that waits beneath it, not the hammer that charges the gate. Smart, patient, lethal.
Shows a different kind of strength, strategic thinking.
There's also that old saying about them. If Darius falls, Alara will turn the earth into a weapon. If Alara falls, Darius will carry her sword to the world's end.
Speaks volumes about their legendary partnership, doesn't it? Almost mythical.
And the internal teachings. Only those who can bury themselves may raise the shield. That links back to the Crucible Rite.
Acceptance of sacrifice as a prerequisite for duty. And you are not your sword. You are the hand that buries it. Again, duty over self, even over the tools of the trade.
Their motto was simple. Hold the line, see the dawn.
Hope and endurance in 4 words.
And that Crimson Crucible quote. Crimson is not a color. It is the weight of what you are willing to sacrifice.
That just sums it all up, really. The cost, the core of what it means to be Bulwark. These quotes aren't just slogans. They feel earned, forged in fire. They show the values, duty, sacrifice, pragmatism, that incredible bond between the leaders.
So putting it all together, the Crimson Bulwark, it's a dedication that's hard to wrap your head around sometimes.
Truly. Brutal training, binding oaths and traditions, and this constant position as the first and maybe last line of defense.
They're way more than just soldiers. It's a true brotherhood, a sisterhood, defined by sacrifice.
Yeah, what's really striking is just how deep that commitment runs, the personal cost that's just baked into their whole existence. They're not just following orders, they are profoundly invested, bound by these ancient, demanding rights, driven by this immense responsibility.
Protecting a world that probably has no idea they even exist, let alone what they give up. Which brings us to a final thought for you listening. When you think about the Bulwark's dedication, their sacrifices, what are the unseen battles maybe happening in our own world? Who are the people holding the line unnoticed?
Or maybe, thinking about your own challenges, the really tough ones. What does holding the line mean for you? What do you draw on to keep going when things feel overwhelming?
It definitely gives you a different perspective on duty, doesn't it? And that quiet heroism that often flies under the radar.